You're listening to the No Schedule Man podcast with Kevin Bulmer, exploring real stories and lessons learned with a variety of special guests. To learn more about Kevin and to access other episodes of the podcast, please visit noscheduleman.com and connect and contribute at NoScheduleMan on Twitter or Instagram and on Facebook, YouTube, and SoundCloud, all /NoScheduleMan. Thanks for listening and enjoy the No Schedule Man podcast.
I've been known to struggle with reality.
Hi, I'm Kevin. Thanks for joining me. Since the last episode with Impact speaker Andy Thibodeau a couple of weeks ago, there's certainly been a lot going on. I've got a couple of new articles up on my personal development journey website. It's called ChooseHopeLiveBetter.com. There's one up there called Is What You Believe Actually True? And it talks about scripting, assuming, projecting, and the potential negative power of making assumptions. Another one since the last podcast is called Using Creativity and Resourcefulness to Achieve Your Goals. In other words, asking if you need to get off the bench and into the game or if you're still listening to excuses and sitting on the sidelines. I've been getting some great feedback on those two articles and would love to have yours. ChooseHopeLiveBetter.com is where you can go to find those. Some new videos up on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/NoScheduleMan. One expands on that idea of creativity and resourcefulness and introduces a special guest, somebody that I know quite well and that I realized was out-hustling me, seriously out-hustling me. And actually, by watching and observing him and then applying what I was learning from him, that helped this podcast come to be. Go have a look for that. You'll know when you see it. Special guest video on my YouTube channel. There's another one on there about perceptions where I even wear some winter clothing and a hockey helmet for a minute. So lots more of those videos to come. YouTube.com/NoScheduleMan. Let me know what you think of those. I got a new song up on my song blog. It's a tune that I wrote almost 20 years ago called Think of Yourself. You can find that at noscheduleman.com or on the YouTube channel. And I also did a little making of behind-the-scenes video for that as well. And there's some new stuff on my site for my rock band bucket list project, mutineerband.com, including a video where I take you behind the scenes, talk about the project a little bit, and even give a little taste of one of the songs. Would love for you to have a look at that. So lots going on, lots of exciting stuff still to come. And of course, since I spoke to you last, I had the chance to sit down for a chat with today's guest, Sara Westbrook. Now, I first met Sara back around 2009 when we both performed at a live music event at a music club here in town. I'd heard of Sara before, but had never taken the opportunity to speak with her deeply about what she was doing for a living. I'm glad that I had the chance to do that here because I believe that what Sara is doing is really important stuff. Sara Westbrook is a motivational speaker, author, and singer who specializes in resilience, confidence, and respect. She's the creator of UPower, helping people to see that they are in control of their choices, how they choose to act, react, and what they choose to believe. It's an incredibly empowering and accountable perspective, and I'm so glad that she's out there doing the work that she's doing. In my opinion, we need more like her. I'm working on it. I'll be out there soon. Sara has shared her UPower presentations with over 200,000 students and parents, using her own personal stories and her songs to give the people that she's speaking with the skills necessary to take back their own UPower and create resilience, confidence, and respect. Sara has also created the UPower Journal, not only for youth to express their thoughts and feelings, but also to build their confidence and resilience through the stories, exercises, and quotes found inside. It's an incredible resource that I've already introduced to my 13-year-old son, and I encourage you to go to sarawestbrook.com and have a look at it. It's called the UPower Journal, capital U, Power, all one word, Journal, the UPower Journal. It's a fantastic piece of work. A few key things that stood out from my time with Sara. Number one, owning your choices. No matter what might be going on in the world, you have the ability and the responsibility to choose what you want to think, what you want to feel, say, and do. It's your choice. Your choice how you wish to act and react to other people and situations. That seems heavy to some people, but it's so empowering once you finally understand and embrace it, owning your choices. Number two, work your mental and emotional muscles as you would any other part of your body. We're far too quick, I think, to just accept, well, I guess this is just the way I am, or, well, this is just the way things are. And we give all our power away in the process if we think like that, but you can change. Remember, you can choose what attitude you wish to have, even if you've been stuck in the same rut for a while. The way out is repetition, choosing a better way, and then repeating it over and over. And Sara tells a great story about this in our conversation, which you're going to hear in a moment. I can also recommend that if you're interested in this kind of an idea, go to YouTube and look for one of Bob Proctor's videos about paradigms and how your subconscious mind works. It'll knock your socks off, and you'll see why you need to work these mental and emotional muscles to affect change over time. And number 3, sharing. Sara tells some great stories about how powerful it was when other people shared very personal things with her, being real and trying to help, and why she makes sure to do that in her presentations. It helped her when it happened for her. It helped her feel as if she was not alone in some of the struggles that she was having. And I've experienced this also. So don't be afraid to be open, honest, and real, and share with other people. Remember that you're offering something very personal about yourself when you do that, and it can often mean a whole lot to other people. Now, talking with Sara was an absolute joy. Her perspective and enthusiasm are really contagious. Thank goodness, because I believe the world needs more of it. You're going to love her. Here's my conversation with Sara Westbrook on the No Schedule Man podcast. You talked about 3 moments in your life that were pivotal. I read this on your website in your My Story thing.
Yes, you've done your research.
A little bit of it.
Yes.
And the very first moment came, as you described, when you were only 3 years old, where you decided that you wanted to be a singer.
Correct.
What do you remember about what influenced that exclamation?
The behind-the-scenes version of that story is I barged in while my mom was in the washroom, actually, at home, and told her that I'm going to be a singer. And mom was probably like, oh, that's great. This isn't the moment for that. But she was really great at supporting me in that journey. And singing was just something I loved to do. There wasn't one thing I saw that I thought, wow, I don't want to be like that person. I just want to sing. It was just within me that I really wanted to sing and express with music.
Where did it come from, though, Sara? Because we're talking about a 3-year-old, right?
And there's not one specific point that I can remember that I was like a light bulb went off and I thought, oh, I want to be a singer. It was just, that's what I wanted to do. Now, if I really analyze and look back, my grandma was a singer. I don't know if I knew that at that age, but my grandma on my dad's side was a very talented classical singer. And she went into competitions. And when I was older, I got to hear some of her cassette tapes of her singing. And so
cassette tapes aren't that old. There are some in this place right here. But.
Well, you know, and they are very, very cool, you know, but they're kind of some sort of a thing of the past, unfortunately. But no, so her cassette tapes, and I didn't realize until I was older that that's where I probably got my voice from. She was the only other singer in our family that I know of. So
this was something that you felt through and through, though, right? Like when you said to your mom, it wasn't like a typical, I shouldn't say typical, but I'm thinking about a 3-year-old that decides, I'm going to be a dragon trainer. Or
right. Well, that was my second option. I thought, well, that could be something for me. No, so there wasn't that. It was just, I just had that moment and I just knew I wanted to be a singer. And it wasn't, and when I say had that moment, it wasn't a moment where I saw someone on TV or I heard about singing that I can remember. It was just within me that I was just like, oh, I want to be a singer. And then when I was 8, I started taking singing lessons. And then by 11, I was actually working at a dinner theater and getting paid to sing. And it was the best thing ever because you're 11, you're missing out on certain subjects in school so that you can go sing and get paid for doing something that you love to do at 11 years old. So it was like, yay, this is exciting.
So you really were into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It became a great way for me to express and to release in a healthy way. and to really just enjoy that my learning what my voice could do. And it definitely came with its frustrating moments when you're trying to, like anything, you're trying to learn how to do something different with your voice, or to go higher, or to extend, or because I wasn't one of those kids that was born with this huge, massive range. Like now we see on some, the America's Got Talent, or these shows where you see these kids, these YouTube sensations that are just incredible, and they're 10 years old and they're like opera singer. That was not me at all. At that age, I was probably nasally and all those things. And so I really had to work at it. But I'm a big believer in effort pays off. Heart matters. Really driving that determination. And I had singing coaches. Then they pushed me, and I pushed myself because I wanted to get better. I didn't want to just say, oh, I guess I just can't do that. I'd have moments where I'd be like, oh, this is so frustrating, but I would just keep at it. I'm like, I'm going to get that no. I'm going to get that no, So that was a drive for me.
So you were determined, and you were digging in from a young age. Mm-hmm. And on the track, and then fork in the road comes.
Yes.
Big moment number 2, which you described as being around 11 years old.
Yes.
Or so. Describe that for me.
So at around the age of 11, my parents got divorced, and that was a big turning point for me because my family life as I knew it just fell apart. So here I am, I'm thinking I've got this ideal, perfect family, going on vacations, families together, and then before they got divorced, there started to be a lot of arguing. And then they got separated, but they got back together, and they got separated, and eventually got divorced. So it was like this roller coaster ride that I didn't want to ride. I didn't like riding, but like anything in life, we will be faced with challenges. And although we can't control every circumstance, we can control who we become from that circumstance. And my mom could actually see around the age of 11, my parents got divorced, that I was really taking on the weight of not only that circumstance, but just the weight of the world, negative opinions, whether they were said at school or outside of school. I was really taking that to heart, and she could see this happy-go-lucky spirit was diminishing. So she started to put me into character education courses, character building courses that really got me to see a different mindset. And I couldn't thank her enough for that. But on a side note, I just want to let you know, I wasn't 11 saying, yay, I want to go to that. No. My mom was dropping me off saying, this is what you're going to. And I was saying, no, I don't want to go. And my mom was saying, that's not a choice. The choice is what chair you sit in when you go into the course. but the choice isn't whether you go in or not. I'm your parent. I have a job to do, and you're going. And so I would march in there and and she did everything, like leadership courses when I was 13 years old. I was being like, no, I'm going to hang out with my friends for the whole summer. My mom's like, oh, sorry, you're actually going to this course for the whole summer. And I was like, you have to be kidding me. This is horrible. And you just think that this is the worst decision you could have ever made for me. Turns out it was an awesome decision. Not only did I get to be surrounded by people that were in this leadership course, and we were actually training to be camp counselors, which I didn't realize right away. And then I was like, oh, this is really great. And then I ended up getting a job the following year and being a camp counselor for London Parks and Rec for the next 4 or 5 years. So it was like this moment where you think, I don't want to go to that, and then it turns into being a really, really great opportunity.
Let me back you up a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of how to phrase this.
Should I be worried?
No, I'm thinking about from your mom's perspective, yes, of how she knew to be able to explore that route. Because I'm thinking there will be a lot of people that are listening, or those among us that we know and come in contact with, that have no idea of what you just described. Either no idea or that it even exists, let alone for your mother to know, to source that out and say, this is the right thing for my daughter. And I know she's going to protest, But how did she know that
Yeah.
was going to play out to be the right thing?
My mom is very curious by nature. She's not one of those ones that doesn't ask a lot of questions and is just, she's going to ask questions. She's going to really get curious about whatever the conversation is. And so that has her dive deeper into looking for, okay, if you mentioned to me about a character development course, or you mentioned about leadership, if you mentioned that to my mom, she's asking a ton of questions and she's figuring out where she can go. She's going to look into it, and then she's going to say, okay, this is something that I want for my child. My mom's still like that to this day. You should call this person. No, you should just send them an email. Just follow up. Look at their website. Really, she's one of those people, and it has served her well in that case of her saying, okay, I'm going to find out information. I'm going to see if this seems like it's in alignment, and I'm going to have my daughter go. Now, my mom wasn't the type that was worried about whether I wanted to go or not, because one of her favorite sayings to me was, I'm not your friend. You have enough friends. Yes, I can be friendly, but I'm your parent. I have a job to do. This is my job. My job is to do what I think is best for you, your development, and your confidence. And this is what I believe is going to work best for you growing up into being an adult. I never understood that saying, and I didn't like that saying until I was like in my 20s, and I was like, thank you. I appreciate that. But you can't expect a thank you, I don't think, from a preteen or a teenager if you're saying, hey, you're going to go to this course, and you're saying, well, no, you ruined my summer. Like, I was going to hang out with my friends all summer. So sorry for the people out there that are, teenagers thinking, I don't want my mom to say that to me. But looking back, it was really, truly set me up for building character and confidence that I desperately needed, that I didn't even know I needed when I was a preteen.
See, without even getting into the details of what character development education is, where you go to find it, that could be a conversation for someone else to have, because I want to get more into Sara Westbrook's journey and what you are doing and what you've been doing since that time. But just to finish off this stream of consciousness, that your mom could see that your soul was drifting a little bit. Mm-hmm. And for her to know, in order for you to get your spirit back on track and set yourself a really good foundation for going forward, mm-hmm. for her to know that was an inside job as opposed to reaching for everything external, mm-hmm. which is what we all do. Mm. This is the light, Sarah, that literally just went on for me in the very, recent future. So soon that I'm embarrassed to even say so, because I consider myself the kind of person that has always looked for that sort of stuff, but I didn't know that I wasn't happy. And she must have been through some series of events or development for her to know.
Absolutely.
I see what's going on.
You've hit the nail on the head. My mom did all the courses too. Actually, one course that I went to, you couldn't go as a young person if you didn't have a parent or guardian go. Because their whole theory, which makes perfect sense, is how can you, as a parent, carry on the conversation with your young person, with your child, about what's happened during this course or during this weekend, however long, if you don't know the conversation, if you don't know what's happened. So some of the stuff that I went to, you had to have a parent or a guardian go to. Because picture this, your son, you send him to some sort of leader, like character development. You have no idea what's gone on that weekend. He comes home excited to have a conversation with you, and now you're trying to catch up. You're thinking, okay, that's great that you're really excited about it, but how do you as a parent remind him when he's forgotten a week later about how excited he was about all the different mind sets he's learned, or all the different choices he's learned about, or this newfound confidence he's gained, and then something happens and you're thinking, okay, well, how do we go back to a week ago, but you can't stimulate the conversation because you weren't involved. And then his comment to you might be, well, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. You weren't even there. You So forget it. I was just excited about it that time, but it's gone now. This is real life. Like, it's not going to work. So what was really neat is she could keep me back on track and hold me accountable. And I think that that's really, when we look at, even as adults, we want to, when we want to better ourselves, we want coaches. And I'm going to relate it back to sports. If you're going to play sports, you usually have a coach. You usually don't just keep practicing by yourself in your backyard. You eventually, if you want to get really good, you enroll a coach or you get on a team and you surround yourself with people who are wanting to get better, and then you learn. And yeah, it's going to be tough sometimes, but you got an end result in mind. You got someone there coaching you. You got to be held accountable. You got to show up. And that had to translate for me into my own personal development. When it came to my character, my confidence was starting to lack, my self-esteem, and I needed someone to coach me outside my mom, but I also need her to, since I lived with her, to hold me accountable to it. And we do that. We do that in sports all the time.
So where along that line, back at that time of your life, did you start to realize that things were starting to change for you in a positive way? And how did that feel? Like, how was it manifesting for you?
What's really cool is when you're young, and I'm going to say, well, I read that in between the ages of 7 and 12 is when you decide the most about yourself in the world. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, wow, that does make a lot of sense. Like, think of 7 and 12. Like, those are some really important ages right there. And a lot was happening in my life at that time. And so when I went to my first character, I'm going to call it character development because that's how I look at it. You know, really, that's the best way for me to phrase it. I was 11, and you absorb more, I believe, and you take on the information, and you try it on like a shirt. And when you try on a shirt and it doesn't fit, you take it off. But if it fits, you think, oh, well, this kind of looks good. You start to wear it. And when I took that exact same course at 20, so I took it at 11, and I took them again at 20, I even felt more analytical in my own mind. And I thought, oh my gosh, okay, because you analyze it, you think, well, will it work? Okay, I'm kind of comfortable with this mindset, or I'm kind of, I don't know, this is kind of a habit now. And then like, oh no, but that sounds good. But oh no, it's going to be a lot of work. And you're kind of playing that back and forth. Whereas at 11, you're like, well, I'll try it. Okay, it works. Yeah, okay, I'll keep it. And I loved that part about being young and having that be more of a foundation. Now, that doesn't mean to say that it's perfection after that. No. Life throws you all sorts of curveballs, and you're going to have ups and downs. But I believe if you have tools in your back pocket, you're more apt to, even if you don't use them right away, they're still there. And then you're apt to be like, oh, I'll dust you off that tool in my back pocket and try it out now. And so you have more of a foundation to springboard from, even if there is going to be rocky periods, because that's life, right? And it's, what are you going to do with it?
Now, at that point, although things were starting to change in ways that you might not have even been able to identify at that point, because it sounds like from what you just described, that continued to kind of morph and change as the process went along, which would be completely natural. But as of that point, and in the years immediately following that, were you still thinking that singing was going to be your path?
Yes. Oh yeah. I was going to be the next Jewel, or, the Celine Dion, or whoever, you can picture. That was, and I say Celine Dion because I always loved her, but I still do. But that around 11, so I was doing the character education, but then my teacher thought I'd be really good at public speaking. So I did public speaking, and I enjoyed it, writing speeches, and you would do them, and when I did it, if you won in your class, then you'd go on to the school, and if you won in the school, then you'd go on to the Optimist group, and you'd travel around doing your speech, and so I was doing that as well as singing. So let's just picture that there's a triangle, and one point is character development, one point is public speaking, and the third point is singing. I was still very driven by singing. It wasn't actually until I was 19 and I was singing at a mall. And after I was done, a principal came up to me and said, "Can you sing at my school?" And just let the young people ask you how you got to do and sing at different events that you've got to sing at. So I was thinking, they're going to ask about that I've sang "O Canada" for the Blue Jays, and they're going to ask, these are the things I'm thinking in my head, that they're going to ask about music, just singing. And so I had said yes, and then I was crazy nervous, because it's funny that I do these things in front of people, like sing and speak, but at the same time, I get really nervous because I get nervous about my biggest fear growing up was judgments, being misjudged, and what if they don't like me, and oh my goodness, and this would just roll around in my mind. So my mantra, my saying became feel the fear and do it anyway. So yes, I'm going to do it, and then I do it, and I feel those butterflies. And when I was standing up in front of the students and I was singing, the questions weren't just about music. They became, what's your home life like? Have you ever been disrespected? Have you ever been left out? And all these different questions that I started using the tools that I had learned out of my back pocket along the way that had made a difference to help me through challenging times and build up my own confidence and resilience. And I started to share. And so that kind of planted the seed that there was more for me than just singing. And so I kind of put it on the back burner. I kind of just I did that, but now I'm just going to focus on singing.
The speaking, you mean?
Right.
Okay.
And going into schools and sharing. And so that, though, was the seed when I was 19 that was planted when I went to that school, that there could be something more. And then if we fast forward many years later, then I started to really incorporate all of it. And now when I speak, I sing. When I sing, I speak. I don't do one without the other, which is totally not what I would have thought if now I was sitting in front of you and I was a preteen, tween, teen. I'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that. This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to sing and make lots of records, and that's what I'm going to do, and win lots of Grammys. That would be. And now I absolutely love what I do, because for me, singing has become one of the ways I communicate and one of the ways I release, connect, and de-stress. But the sharing of life skills, character, really focusing and helping young people and educators and now parents with the mindset of thinking and acting beyond tough emotions and making those character-based choices, that's become my drive.
It's really interesting to hear you describe this process, Sarah. Something that continues to come up over and over in these conversations is just getting started and moving forward, especially if you're following some kind of passion, but a diversion in the path. So
the detour
people
becomes
that
a
are,
tour.
that are sure that they know where they want to go, and then something else is shown to them, and yet you talked about some of the benefits of singing, de-stressing, and all of that kind of stuff. But another key thing is that it's part of who you are. It's woven into your DNA. And so it sounds to me very natural that would lend itself to be a very key part of what's become your life's work to this point. But it's interesting that I continue to hear of people that, when I grow up, I'm going to be a this. And you start down that path, and then other doors start to open for you. Not unlike the shirt analogy that I try that on. It's a little bit tight. I think I'll try another one.
Right.
But I'm glad I took it off the rack at least. This one seems to feel pretty good. I think I'll wear it for a while. Life is like that too, isn't it?
Absolutely. And being flexible. Because I think sometimes it's easy to get it has to be this way. Well, does it have to be that way, or could it be that way? But it's not that way. And I know for some people listening, they might say, what the heck did you just say? But really, it's about what if, there was no right or wrong when it's your journey. Maybe it's just, this is part of getting to where you want to go, is the detour. Is, okay, I thought I was going to be here. I'm not. But wow, this is a really great place too. And enjoying that journey. And I think that sometimes it's hard. And I've even with myself, you have to be really mindful of enjoying where you're at, because you can get so caught up into, yeah, but I was really supposed to be over here. And so then you put your happiness on hold because you thought you were supposed to be somewhere else. Well, maybe you still will be that other place, but it's just not yet. And I remember hearing a really successful comedian be interviewed on some sort of talk show. And the one question that they asked her, and it really stuck out for me, her answer, they said, "What do you wish you would have told the 20-year-old you?" And she really thought about it, and she said, I would tell the 20-year-old me to enjoy the journey, because you're going to get there. She's like, I rushed everything. And I feel like I really didn't enjoy those years because I was so focused on, I have to be here, I have to be here, I have to be here. Instead of, I would have got there, but I could have enjoyed it more.
Yeah, the whole idea of getting there.
Yeah, where's there?
Well, I'll say that with air quotes.
Yeah.
And this is a trap that I continually dug and continued to fall in myself. This is there.
Absolutely.
And so that there, as glib as that sounds, none of us knows how much more runway there is in front of us. And I struggled for a long time, Sarah, because I've always been a very goal-oriented, goal achievement-related person. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's quite a title.
Thank you. It's great to have things that you aspire to move you forward, like we were just talking about. But took some time to realize that the work and the effort of moving toward those goals needs to add to your present sense of enjoyment and engagement, not take you ahead of the beat in a way and to where you're living in a future that doesn't exist yet and probably isn't even going to manifest in the way that you think it should or want it to now. You're here now. You're there.
Okay, I love that you're just saying this because, and I don't mean to interject, but I mean to interject because
I told you before we started that you could. I
just wrote an article and it's called Here versus There. Haven't even released it yet. So I'll have to let you know when it is. I'll tweet about it.
Okay.
Here versus there, because it's exactly what you're talking about. So we're here and we want to be there, but when you get there, it becomes another here. So here is there. I know we've really messed people up.
But the process of getting there has to add to here, right? It has to
add to it. Because, and I think that now I'm a parent. So my son's 4. And I remember reading a book that my mom got me when I was pregnant, and it was called Mindful Motherhood. Or Mindful Mothering. Mindful something. Mother. Something mother. And it was really, the essence of it was really about enjoying the process because they won't be a certain age for that long, or this too shall pass, in the sense of they're not sleeping through the night. I mean, I think we've all been there. You're like a zombie. You just want them to go to sleep because you want to enjoy your night, and you've been with them all day, and you're like, why aren't you sleeping? You're fed, you're clean, you're tired, go to sleep. And why isn't that happening? And I think we've all had those moments, especially with young children. And reminding myself, I wasn't alone, because there's someone in the world that's up with their child trying to get them to sleep and is frustrated that they're not going to sleep, and B, that they won't always be in this stage. So as much as we want to sometimes rush through it because we were like, want to get them to an age where they're just going to sleep, and I don't know if there is that age. I don't know if that happens, but we all know that it's easy to want to rush till they get to, well, then they get more independent, or then they get, and I was told this by so many parents as well, the years will pass, the time will pass, so really enjoy it. And I really took that information, not just from the book, but from other parents to heart, and thought, you know what? I'm really going to remind myself to be mindful. Even the times where I'm driving around at 3 a.m, thinking, why aren't you sleeping yet? Go to sleep. And I'd be driving around literally looking for houses that had the lights on. I'd be like, okay, they're still up. Drive. They're still, okay, I'm not alone. And being mindful as a person and as a parent, I think is really what has us also enjoy the here. Because the here and now is what we have. And there will always be another there that will turn into, when you get there, it'll turn into a here, like we were just saying. And you want to make sure you looked back and you enjoyed it to your best of your ability.
And it becomes more than just about you now. See, this gets us back to where we were talking
Much
about
more.
your mom, right? And what she imparted
Absolutely.
to you about her job that she had to do. Is that we all are coming at reality through our own perspective, whatever we perceive reality to be, right? And we all individually, I think, want to have as enjoyable an experience as we can. Now, these little people that I'm responsible for rocket into the picture, or friends, neighbors, family members, could be any of that and others. And we all have our projection of our experience and our perception of getting there all jumbled together and smashing off one another. So it's a delicate balance. Anyway, I want to haul us back into your journey because so many of the things that you have already touched on, I have been thinking these are the things that we need to be teaching ourselves when we're younger. It's great to be able to know complex arithmetic and all these other things. I don't want to debate all of that.
No.
But I know that I was never taught to recognize what I was feeling. I was never taught how to effectively communicate and understand that somebody might have a different perspective on something that I might have. And that didn't make them right or me wrong or vice versa. It just made our perspectives different. And I could go on and on and on. You're one of the people that I perceive, Sara, as being out there doing what I now feel is going to be such a benefit to our society as a whole by going and empowering young people in a way that was sort of seeded, I think, for you back from the time of what you've already described.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So let's talk about how you got to where you are now. We're going to go back to that. You're 18, 19. You had that experience. You were encouraged to go and speak in front of that school group. You did, but you were still, I'm going to compartmentalize speaking over here.
That's right.
I still want to do this. You know, you're still a very young person with other things to do. But what happened over the next half decade or so that started to translate into what became your career?
It's interesting that you say that the music was woven into my DNA. I'm going back to that. You said that, and that it became a natural part of my communication to be through music. It was interesting because that's why I believe that I combine the two. That I don't do one without the other. I don't speak without singing. I don't sing without speaking. I really combine the two. So I like that you said that. So I'm just using that to springboard to answer your question.
Sure.
My mom and my now husband, who we met when I was in high school. So we've been together. I've been with him more than I've not been with him.
Sure.
You know, now being 34, so that's more than half my life. And both him and my mom on different occasions had said, you got to really find your niche, like something to really set you apart. And I remember different people saying, and them as well, how about singing and speaking? And I thought, well, no, I'm not going to do that. And at first I took it offensively. I thought, well, why? I can't just sing? You don't think I can just make it by singing? And, you know, I'm not the highest singer, the lowest, the best, the fastest, the slowest, but I mean, I'm going to give it a shot. And so I took it almost offensively. And again, about perception. So I was filtering it through, well, wow, you don't think I'm good enough? All those past, stories. Mm-hmm. And then I really looked at that one day and I was like, maybe this is me. Again, going back to the detour part, maybe this is the plan. Maybe my plan wasn't the plan. This is the plan. And I started to roll with it. And then I started to really go full tilt and go into schools and make it a career. See, well, is this feasible? Is there a need for this? Could I do this? And then when my mom could see I was really, really serious, she sold her business and started to work for me. So actually now, many years ahead, she works for, I like to say with me, but it's for and with me, because we've really developed a really great team. And so this detour that I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sing and speak. Okay, I'll do it once. Okay, I'll do it twice. Okay, I'll do it 3 times. Okay, I'll do it 20 times. Okay, now I'm going to do it full time.
Okay, I want to hold you back.
Yes.
Because I want to ask something as basic
Reel me back in. I'm getting too far.
No, not at all. But I want to ask something as basic as, what were you doing then and how did you do it? Let me just reframe that to make sure that I'm clear.
Okay.
At the stage that you just described, you're thinking, maybe I can do both. Maybe I can. And then you talked about just really getting into it. I can't remember the exact words that you used, but going full tilt. That's what you said.
Right.
What did that mean? What were you doing? How did you start to try to formulate a presentation?
I know. And this is a question, for people that are just starting out, and they ask me, and because I did the same thing. I asked other people who were speaking. Maybe they weren't necessarily speaking and singing. Maybe they were. And they were doing it full time and going into schools or going into corporations or doing whatever. Mm-hmm. And it can be daunting. You can look and think, oh my goodness, how do I get to that point? And it is very much a progression. So the first thing that I did is I thought, okay, so what's my message? Like, what do I really want to get out there? If I have one thing to say, what would that be? And for me, it went back to my experience. What made a huge difference for me when I was going through challenges and as a preteen, teenager, struggling with self-worth is when people shared with me. That's what made a difference for me. Yes, I loved that I did character education courses, and my mom even put me into support groups so I could really see I wasn't alone. That was a huge benefit. But what helped me within those character education support groups is when people shared. When I was 13 years old and my mom went to work and I was by myself, I found her cassette tapes of Tony Robbins. Because my mom was into doing her own self-development work. So she had these cassette tapes. So I started listening to them. And I was fascinated by this whole concept of you basically could shift your life by shifting how you saw your life and your mindset and your choices and all this stuff. And I loved it. And even though I was listening and loved the concepts, I loved when Tony Robbins shared his own stories of him growing up. And at Thanksgiving, and that they had no money, and that they were offered a turkey by a neighbor, and the dad slammed the door in the person's face because his pride was too big, and they didn't eat properly that night, but they could have. And just all these things I was remembering, and of course I'm paraphrasing his own story right now, but this is the stuff that stuck with me as a young person, was that he was sharing. More than his concepts or anything, it was that he was sharing, and I understood his concepts through his sharing. And I said, well, then I would have to share. And that was the scariest part, is I knew I needed to be authentic and share. But if you remember in the beginning, at some point of this conversation we've been having, I said my greatest fear was judgments and being not taken the way that I've put out, being misperceived, misjudged, and ultimately not being liked. So this is my greatest fear. So now I'm sharing, and I have to face my greatest fear of some people won't like me. Some people won't like my look, my music, my message. I'm going to be really open and honest, share things with a crowd of people that I didn't even share with my closest friends growing up, because I just wanted to look like I had it all together. And so that became really scary and vulnerable for myself. And that was but I knew I needed to do it. So that was my way of making the biggest connection and impact in the shortest period of time, was through just sharing. And I wanted young people. Now I work with parents, and I wanted them to know they weren't alone, and that there is ways to strengthen their core, their muscles of confidence and being able to bounce back from challenging times. And yes, it takes effort, but it's worth the effort because they're worth it. Their lives are worth it. Their dreams are worth it. And that, to me, I needed to be really authentic, and I still do. Everything I share, I do in my own life to this day. Any activity, any skill, any exercise I give them is something I practice myself to build my own confidence and resilience, because I believe it's a journey. But I wanted my audience to know that even though our stories might not be the same, we've all experienced pain or challenge, and it doesn't have to define you, and it doesn't have to suppress you, that you can regain your own, what I call now, my company is called UPower. So you have the power to choose. Not everything that happens to you, not everyone's opinion of you, but how you choose to act, how you choose to react, and ultimately what you choose to believe about yourself and the world. But the biggest thing that gets in the way is emotions. Something happens and then boom, an emotion comes up. Anger, frustration, sadness, jealousy. And it's easy to respond out of those emotions or to suppress those emotions. So one of my big messages that I have to practice and continually do and work with, even with my son, is those emotions are real and they're natural, but how are you going to move through them in a healthy way so you don't hold them in, hurt yourself, or hurt somebody else? Because we see that happen all the time. And I believe it's a skill to be in control of your emotions, because it is easy. And we see that with young kids. I mean, especially, 2-year-olds at a grocery store, they don't care who's around. If they're upset about something, everyone's going to know. And so we constantly work with young people to redirect emotions so I think at any age, we need to remember that emotions are natural. They're normal. They're not to be denied, but we just got to feel them and release them in a healthy way so we can move through them and ultimately train our brain to think and act beyond emotion and make character-based choices out of respect, kindness, empathy. And that is not easy when you're feeling angry or extremely sad, but it's possible. So everything that I do and share revolves around a choice-making formula to think and act beyond emotion and make character-based choices, and teaching it as young as possible and working out that skill, I think, is really, really important.
The idea of the emotions, gosh, you just think about the amounts of people, Sarah. I know I've been one of them, but you think that what you're feeling is wrong.
And you deny yourself.
And then how that leads into a spiral of confusion, shame, frustration, on and on and on. And no, what you're feeling is what you're feeling. Now, let's try to identify it and see what we can do with it. But the whole cycle of thinking, and this gets back to your idea of sharing and being able to relate to other people. I shouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling, or what I'm feeling is wrong, and not having the tools to even have that awareness, let alone move through it, is like guzzling poison. And yet we're guzzling poison, and then we're letting our kids guzzling in my opinion.
Yes.
And I don't say that in a judgmental sense.
No, because
I don't think we realize that that's what we're doing.
And sometimes it can be a habit or be a pattern of like you said, just keeping it in or denying yourself of it. And you can you can even not even realize it's a habit for you, just to be like, oh no, I'm fine. And we both know, and everyone that's listening knows that you can only say I'm fine for so long. If you truly do not feel fine, you can say it for a little bit, but it catches up to you.
It will.
I'm fine, boom. And then one day you're not fine. And one of the things that I love is I got a whole bunch of young people to share their healthy ways to release their emotions. Because, emotions are real. Now what are we going to do with them? And they all started writing them down. So I collected them, and the most common ones we made on a big poster. So that poster, parents can take away, schools can take away, because I do a lot of work in schools, and they can post it, whether it's in their hallway or in a kid's bedroom, and say, okay, here's so many options that other people have come up with to help them release their emotions in a healthy way. And then we can add to it. So the school can add to it, the student, the child, the parent can add to it, whoever, wherever this poster is for them. But then they can say, okay, emotions are real. Look at all the ways that you can release them. Some of them are going to work for me. Some of them won't. And I'm going to add some of my own. And it's amazing to see that some of the young people are like, oh, I've never tried that before. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try screaming into a pillow because I've never tried that before. Or I'm going to try journaling because I've never tried that before. Or I forgot about that. I'm going to try that. Or breathing. One of the big ones that comes up a lot is just breathing. Because we hold our breath so much, especially with emotion. And so just even 3 deep breaths allow your body to calm, or allow your brain to catch up before you start just speaking out of that emotion. And again, I believe that's a skill, because it's easy to be impulsive and reactive and
race to be the victim and blame and do all of the things that don't really help you through. When you can position something in a way that's inarguable. When this happens, I'm feeling this way, as opposed to, you made me feel like this. It allows you to get it out into the atmosphere and then start to deal with it. But anyway, I don't want to, I feel like I've gotten us off track a little bit here, but these are the kinds of things that, again, I found out, or began to, quite by accident, Sarah, by, you say you're fine, you say you're fine, you say you're fine, boom. I got to experience the boom. And I think most of us do in one form or another along the journey. It's what you do with the boom that will, I think, define a lot of what your experience from that point is going to be. So I'm going to haul us back again to where you were with everything that you described, that you knew what your message was, you realized how powerful it was for you when people were sharing, and that you felt that you needed to really open up and be vulnerable, get past the fear of judgment, try to figure out what parts of you were going to be most impactful to share. And then out you go now into the world, into the schools, and in front of these audiences. What did that look like at that time?
It's been a journey. It's looking in the mirror every single time that you are sharing a story or you're sharing of yourself, and it's also a way to connect with other people. So it started off with doing a handful of schools a month to building, and then with anything, it takes time to, well, especially with entrepreneurs, it takes time to build that foundation and get that word of mouth. And so now I'm in 3 to 5 schools a week. I do parents as well, and I love that because working with the students is really, really great. And I've worked with over 200,000 students over my years, and I love it. And I can identify with them, and I can relate, and I can go back to their age. Even if we haven't experienced the exact same story, I can go back to those emotions or the challenge, a similar challenge that maybe I faced, and relate. But what I love about working with the parents is giving and sharing tools that have helped not only my personal development when it comes to confidence, resilience, and my own mental well-being, but share what young people have shared and what has helped them and what I have found has helped them along the way. Because I think as parents, it's important to really create that village to raise a child. And I believe in that. Like, I would love to think that my son, as he grows up, is going to hear every wise word that comes out of my mouth. But there's going to be times where he needs to hear it from somebody else. And when I go into the school, or I go into the conference, or wherever I'm sharing my UPower message and presentation and workshops, I get to be part of that village, even if just for that day. And I love that, because you just never know whether you're planting a seed, whether you're watering a seed that maybe a parent or a teacher or educator or stranger has planted in somebody's mind, and you're just reiterating or giving a different perspective, that's why I love what I do, is because it's always different, because people are different and evolving, and their energy is different. So no presentation is the same for me.
When you got going, how much trial and error was involved?
Oh my goodness. Well, my mom is, it was really, really great too. And I know I've talked a lot about my mom, but you have to understand that we are not only colleagues, we've created a great friendship, and a mother and daughter. And on a side note, yes, some people do ask, well, do you ever get into arguments, or you guys seem like you get along so well? And we'll say, yes. But the thing that's different is we listen, we communicate, and we have the same end result when it comes to our relationship, UPower. So then we let it go and we say, okay, what's for dinner? Where are we going? So we've worked really well together. I've built that over the years. But no, where was I going? I went off on a tangent of my mom and I, because I always think that it's so cute when people ask, like, well, do you guys ever? And I don't want to give this idealistic perception. Yes, we of course we have those moments like anybody else, but I think that it's what you do with those moments and how you communicate, even if you are different communicators. Because I think that sometimes just because you want to say something doesn't mean that you just get to just say it however you want to say it, if you want that person to really hear you, because maybe they won't hear you if you're talking in that tone, or if you're using those words, and if you can just tweak it a little bit, then they're going to hear you and you're going to get a better conversation going. Absolutely. But yeah, no, so over the years, we've just really built the UPower presentations, and I love it.
Where did the term UPower come from?
You have the power to choose. So we just put the U. So it's capital U, P, and then small O, W-E-R. So everyone's like, is it up hour? But it was just like, it's about up, but UPower. So just taking back your UPower, because we just give it away so much. And like you were saying, become the victim or blame. Yeah. And that can feel easy at the time, but I think it's harder to live in that space. I've just, no, okay, that happened to me, but it's not going to define me. You're not going to define me. Your negativity is not going to, I'm going to be respectful even in the face of disrespect. Not because it's easy, because we know it's not easy, but because it's possible and it's worth the work, it's worth the effort, because ultimately this is your life. So what are you going to do with it? Yeah. Power it's such a great term. That's one of the most empowering things I think that you can learn. And I remember reading, and I had read it, I don't know how many dozens of times before it finally, okay. Yeah. Like how you were saying that, sometimes it needs to come from somewhere else at a different time. Oh, that's what I was saying. See, when I said that, I was going about it needs to come from somebody in a different time. Sorry, I just remember. I said... Yeah, so what happened to you that happened? Well, it's just the idea of that whatever is going on, whatever's in my field of awareness or is a part of my life right now is my responsibility. Doesn't necessarily mean it's my fault, but if it's in my awareness, it's my responsibility. That means I get to choose what I'm going to do or not, or how I'm going to react or think or choose.
maybe my interpretation of what UPower is. And although sometimes that can feel very scary, and I remember thinking when this first came across to me that it started to make sense, I thought, okay, that makes sense, but gosh, but I didn't want this, or I wasn't looking for that. Well, maybe or maybe not, but it's here. What are you going to do about it? And that can be scary, but it's also really empowering to go, okay, like this little tornado can go on in the corner, but it can only scare me if I allow it to. Right. And is that even a small idea of what your interpretation of UPower is about?
Oh, no, for sure. Because ultimately, other people's choices are not in your control. My parents' divorce was not my choice. It was not in my control. So I can't change that. And as an 11-year-old, there's a little part of my brain that's thinking, well, can I do something? What if I did this? So I needed to let go that it was about me. It was their journey. I couldn't snap my fingers and make them fall in love. Yeah, I showed them many wedding pictures. Look at you guys here. Like, how can we get back to that place? Because as an 11-year-old, thinking, well, if you got married, why aren't you staying? Or what's happening? And what really made a huge difference for me is saying, okay, that's a chapter of my life, but it's not my whole story. There was this boy in my grade 7 class around the time of my parents' separation and an eventual divorce that made fun of me every day. Every day there was something new. That was a chapter of my life, but it wasn't my whole story. It's not my whole story. And I want young people, and I even remind myself of this, to know that whatever challenge they face, although it can seem permanent and their emotions can seem permanent, isn't. It doesn't have to be. That it can be just a chapter of your life and not your whole story. But who are you going to become from that chapter? So exactly what you're saying is, okay, this happened. I didn't choose it. I didn't want it. I want to snap my fingers and just make it go away. But I'm snapping my fingers and it's still right there. So now what? Do I just curl into a ball and say, okay, that's it, I'm done? Or do I say, okay, this is crappy, but who am I going to become from it? And what's really important is finding support, is finding those people in your life that can be coaches. So whether it's a parent or a mentor or a book or, anything that you can say, this is who I want to become. I don't know exactly how to get there, and keep talking to somebody listens. I say that to young people all the time. They just keep talking till somebody listens, because there's somebody out there that is going to listen. And I'll have lots of young people email me about challenges that I'm just sharing lightly about right now. And I think it's really, more than anything, they want to know they're not alone. They want to know they're not the only one. And I think no matter what age you are, we want to know we're not the only one. Hence me driving around with my crying baby that's not sleeping at 3 a.m, looking for people with their lights on. Okay, you're up. I'm not alone. And there was comfort in that. I didn't have to talk to the person. I just had to know, okay, I'm not the only one that's up. Okay, I'm not the only one that had parents get divorced. I'm not the only one that got made fun of every day in grade school. I'm not. So now, but now what? Because I don't want to live there. I just want that to be a chapter, but that's not going to be my whole story. So now what? Okay, I didn't make that competition in singing, and but I don't want that to be my whole. This is how I'm feeling right now, but I don't want it to be my whole story. I just want it to be a chapter. So now what? So what I really want to bring to the table is the now what.
So in terms of looking for tools, coaching, resources, let's talk for a few minutes about the UPower journal. Because
yes, let's talk about
She's got a copy of it right beside her. I was walking through Chapters, which is the name of a store. People in other parts of the world that are listening to this will have no idea what that is. Bookstore. They still exist, at least here in Ontario,
You want to
Canada.
check that store out. I love the Chapters.
Well, and then going down the aisle, and it was on the end aisle. And it jumped right out at me. And, of course, I've seen the logo before. But I saw it and I remember thinking, yes, score one for the the good guys. The
Yeah.
good placement.
That's awesome.
How
Thank
did
you.
First, maybe if you would tell me how that even came to be.
I've mentioned a few times about confidence, resilience, being able to bounce back from challenging times, challenging opinions, challenging emotions, and mental well-being being a muscle that you can work out. I believe that you just got to find exercises, activities to work out that muscle. I often refer to it as like a bicep. I would not do one bicep curl and be like, boom, there it is. Huge biceps. I only did one curl. Huge bicep. No, if you heard that I had huge biceps from doing one bicep curl, you would be like, that's ridiculous. There's no way. She's got to work it out. She's probably going to get a coach, get a trainer, do exercise. If she wants huge biceps, she's got to put in effort. I believe confidence, resilience, mental well-being is the same. Can't just talk about it. Can't just hear about it. Got to do exercises to do it. That's exactly what the UPower Journal is designed to do. And when I'm doing a presentation, whether I'm at a school working with young people or I'm working with parents, educators, how do we continue the conversation at home? That's where this UPower Journal comes into play. So in here is not just your average journal with blank pages, because we were mentioning before when the mics weren't on that blank pages can be really overwhelming. Mm-hmm. You can open up a journal and be like, whoa, where do I start? And I remember when I was 11 years old and my mom saw that I was taking on the weight of the world and my happy-go-lucky spirit was diminishing, she wanted me to journal. And she put a blank journal in front of me and said, when you're done your homework, I want you to write 2 pages in it. And I said to her, no, thank you. And my mom said to me, like I mentioned before, this isn't a choice. The choice is what you choose to write, but not whether you write or not. And I said, well, I have nothing to write. And she said, perfect, write that. I said, okay, I don't know if you heard me, right? I even said, I have nothing to write. She said, great, well, just write that you have nothing to write and just go from there. And she left. And I knew that if I didn't write in this journal that she put in front of me, there'd be some sort of consequence that I wouldn't like. And my mom would follow through with whatever that consequence was, and I wouldn't like it. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to write. So in the actual UPower Journal, there is a photocopy that I'm showing you that, of course, not everyone can see right at this moment. But there's a photocopy of my first journal entry, so I'm just going to read it. It says, the reason why I'm writing so big, and we're sitting quite far across from each other, but you can probably see the word big.
I can see it.
It's big, so that I'm saying, the reason why I'm writing so big is because I want to fill up as much room as I can because I don't have 2 pages of thoughts today. And I kept rewriting that. And then partway through my second page, I started to write about my parents' divorce, my friends, my day. It became the place that I would vent, release, reflect. And it almost felt like someone was there, even though nobody was. So in this UPower Journal, we designed it to be 6 steps to build confidence, resilience, and mental well-being. And each step, I share a personal challenge, going back to just sharing. And then there's activity pages, exercise pages, quote pages, blank pages for the person who's using it to vent, release, be reflective, but ultimately say, who do I want to be in the world? And what's really, really great about the exercises is these are all exercises I still use to this day. And when a parent comes up to me and says, you know what, I don't know how I would get my young person to write. And I can tell them about how my mom got me to write, but if they're not willing to go down that road, the thing that I like to say to them is at bedtime, usually young people want to stay up later. So what a great time to stimulate dialogue. So instead of having them write, read them one of the personal challenges I share, and then start stimulating a conversation through the activity pages. So this is one, for example. So this one, springboards, I'm just going to read this and we can just have a conversation about this. It's step 2 in the UPower Journal. It says, what you say to yourself matters. I'm a big believer in your internal record matters. And if it gets really negative, like mine did, we got to replace that record with a new, what I would call you powerful one. You have the power to choose. And so choose what you want to believe about yourself, even though You might have to replace that negative record 1,000 times a day. It's worth the effort. So there's exercises on how to do that in here. But this is one of the activity pages where you could actually create a dialogue with a young person in your life and say, tell me about a time you allowed somebody else's negative opinion to change what you think about yourself. It's amazing, their answers.
I bet.
And then the next one is, what do you want to believe about yourself? So regardless of their opinion, what do you want to believe about yourself? Even though you might have a little voice telling you the opposite. If you could change that voice in a second, what would you want it to say? And then what's one choice you could make to show you are choosing to believe in yourself? It's mind-blowing what they come up with. And then as parents now, we become their coach to help hold them accountable to that. So maybe they could write it out, post it, put it beside their mirror. You should have seen my room in high school. It was just one written thing. Like I just wrote over my whole wall everything I wanted to believe about myself. Little did I know I'd be doing what I'm doing today. And what a difference those simple but really effective activities have made to changing my own perception and internal record, because mine got really, really negative. And I could smile and get good grades. But on the inside, it was almost as if there was a war within myself. And so if I can bring this, and it can even affect one young person, it's worth it, because it's never just one. There's always a ripple effect, because they have friends and family, and one day they'll have their own family. And so that's what it's really about. And that's why I do what I do.
How does it make you feel to know that there's no possible way for you to be able to measure the impact, but that you've devoted your life to giving the opportunity to really add to the quality of what could be an exponential and immeasurable amount of lives? What does that feel like?
Well, I feel like I'm welling up right now that you just said that. Overwhelmingly joy. Yeah.
See, I want to frame that a little bit before we wrap up, because I'm asking this from my perspective and I'm lending my opinion. In my opinion, based on my experience, is that a very good part of our North American society has no idea of how they're wandering through life. We're following along this script that got laid out, and it never even occurred to us to question it. Mm-hmm. Let alone have the tools and capability to be able to empower yourself like you just described. So if you're lucky, you get to some point in life where you come to a bit of a crossroads, and then you start to be brave enough to do what Yoda suggests, unlearn what you have learned. And then if you can even get to that stage, then now what? But to be able to give people that early in their lives the opportunity to even start thinking about, because there are going to be, let's say there are, I'll just pick a number, 100 students in a group that you're speaking to. Maybe 10 of them, maybe 5 are in a place where they're really engaged and listening and ready to act and soak in and make a positive difference for themselves and others starting right now today. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's 75. I don't know. It would be different with every group. But everybody that's there now has had that's one impression, sort of washed over them. Mm-hmm. It might even be decades down the road before, bang, the light goes on. And I remember, how many times...
That's what she was talking about.
Well, but do you know what I mean? Yeah. How many times...
Absolutely.
I've hijacked this deliberately so Sarah can get back a hold of herself. Has somebody said... I think you'd really enjoy reading this book, or I think this kind of exercise would be something, and you appreciate it, but you're not there yet. Mm-hmm. And then 6 months, 12 months, 2 years down the road, I know why Mom left that book on my on my doorstep, or I know why so-and-so sent me that Facebook message. And you're, in my opinion, Sarah, at the very least, giving that opportunity for these people to start thinking about all of the things that we've just taken the last hour to talk about. And maybe a day goes by, maybe a week, maybe another amount of time into Google, Sara Westbrook, and that is really, really cool, And so the best, because maybe a cynical person, I'm like everybody else, I don't want to be judged. If I were judging right now, I'd be like, Kevin, you're talking too much. Let your guests talk. It's my podcast. I'll talk however much I want. But, you're supposed to be a this or a that, or be a doctor doing surgery or a teacher or whatever to have this, make this, whatever. Again, my perspective. I think the greatest gift that you can give anybody is empowering them and giving them the tools to live the highest percentage of their time as they possibly can in contentment and fulfillment.
I would agree.
And to me, that's what you've been doing.
Thank you. And you know what? And it's not a one-man show. I have to give a lot of credit to my family's always been supportive. My brother, my sister's so cute. She'll come to the UPower presentations that she can make too, and she is like zoned right in, like she's just right there. And of course, my mom, who I've been talking loads about, all my experiences. Even my dad taught me so much. He taught me who I wanted to be as a person, who I didn't want to be as a person. That's a whole nother podcast. And my husband, who I've been with forever, we dated 12 years before we even got married, and he's been nothing but supportive and said, you can do this. And so I've really had that push and that support. So I want to give notes to that because I think that's really important. And now being a mom myself, all of that has to translate to raising my son, who will one day share what he wants to do, and to really know that his journey is his journey. It's not mine, that I can swim along beside him and give him support and lessons learned and morals and values and all that great, wonderful, those teachings. But at the end of the day, he's going to have a journey. And my mom did that with me. My family did that with me. She never said, oh, well, that's a ridiculous dream. Singing, do something different. Right? Or that's ridiculous. You're going to do speaking and singing. That was never it. It was just, okay, that's what you want to do. Okay, so what would you need to do that? That was the conversation. Even with my husband. Okay, so what would that look like? And he's very business mindset too. So I think that's a really important part of this conversation is finding those people who support you, and also being those supportive people for other people's dreams and passions. And that knowing, of course, there could be detours, but maybe the detours are really, really wonderful and are part of the journey. So looking back, this is what it was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be me just singing. It was always supposed to be me speaking, singing, and using those two ways to communicate life skills to help people think and act beyond tough emotions and make character-based choices. That mental health's for everybody. It's not just for one group of people. We've all got minds. So mental health matters just like physical health matters. And if you would have told me that I'd be doing this when I was 15 years old, I would have said, forget it. And now I'm like, yes, okay. And it didn't come without pushing and me pushing my own boundaries, and I still continue to, because even for me, it is a journey. Personal growth is a journey. Building character is a journey. It's not a destination. And enjoying the ride.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, and thank you so much for this time today.
Thank you.
I'm here to help and support you however I can. Thank goodness we've got people out there like you doing what you're doing. And so
that means a lot.
Continued success to you, and thanks for the time, Sara.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You can reach Sara online at sarawestbrook.com. On Twitter, she's at Sara Westbrook. Facebook at Sara Westbrook fan page. On Instagram at Sara Westbrook UPower. and on YouTube at UPower Concerts. Give her a shout. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. And look for the UPower Journal in the shop at sarawestbrook.com. As for me, noscheduleman.com is the main hub for all things I'm up to, though I encourage you to have a look at my personal development journey site, choosehopelivebetter.com, and my rock band bucket list project, mutineerband.com. I'd love to see you over there. Please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, rate it and review it if you care to, or leave a comment on the YouTube feed at youtube.com/noscheduleman. Thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next time on the No Schedule Man podcast.
Just a little deja vu.